Well, okay. Now we are discussing about sources of legal advice for small businesses when it comes to Sri Lankan small scale businesses. It's very important that you want to learn these sources of legal advice for small businesses because one of the questions will be covered from this one as well when it comes to the examination, and it is in your syllabus to cover the sources of legal advice for small businesses. Therefore, what I thought, so I normally I have taken only very few sources. So very few sources, and when it comes to seminars, I will be telling you what are the most important sources that you want to focus on. But still, I have taken only three, four sources, the most important legal aspects that we are going to cover up today. Okay, so let me bring you the introduction for this one. So, normally why almost now we were discussing about the challenges for these small scale businesses. So there we discussed. So the most of the small scale businesses, they do not know what are the legal advices that they have to seek on, and what are the regulatory conditions when it comes to small businesses. මොනවද නීතිමය පැත්තෙන් අපි බලන්න ඕන කියන small business, most of the people they do not know. So therefore most of the people they have not working under a proper rules and regulations, and even the government cannot support for such organizations as they are not being recognized. If we do not know, we never know that such a thing is existing. අපි කවදාවත් අපි දන්නේ නැත්නම් එහෙම එකක් තියෙනවා කියලා අපි කවදාවත් දන්නේ නැහැ නේ එහෙම දෙයක් තියෙනවා කියන එක. Think about there is a think about there is a black color flower which kills people. කළු පාට මලක් තියෙනවා කියලා හිතන්නේ මිනිස්සු මරන්න. If we never know about that, we never know that there is such flower is existing. So very similarly, for small scale businesses also, unless the businesses are not registered under the business acts and they are not the government attention is not there for these kind of businesses as well. Okay, when it comes to the introduction, so what we call as lawyers and legal consultant. So these things every small scale business needs to know, and if you are going to start a small scale business also, these are the things that you want to focus on, right? So small business owners in Sri Lanka can seek legal advice from lawyers. So any small scale business owner can seek the legal advice from lawyers in the country. And legal consultants specialize in commercial and business law. And there are some legal consultants. So basically they are again lawyers. They are specializing in commercial and business law. They know everything about what's happening under commercial and business laws. And they can provide guidance on various legal aspects of running a small business and help navigate the legal landscape. So they are looking at how to help for these small businesses, how to run, what are the legal aspects that they need to be considered with, and they will help navigate. They will provide the directions for you, what legal boundaries that the small scale businesses are bound to. So Chamber of Commerce. So this Chamber of Commerce, so Vanija Mandala Kela. This Chamber of Commerce, so basically in Sri Lanka is a valuable resource for small business owners because it always focuses on the small scale businesses and focus on in which areas these small scale businesses need help, whether any legal matters, whether any opportunities. So there are sometimes in first this Chamber of Commerce, they get opportunities from foreign countries about exports. So as a small scale business, what they do is, let's assume that you are into the same industry, garment manufacturing industry. So all the small scale businesses who are into garment manufacturing industry, they get together and they release these opportunities. There are some opportunities that you can deal with. So the people who can win this opportunity, they will be able to get these opportunities. So like a lot of opportunities that you can get with Chamber of Commerce. So most of the organizations, they do not know about what to do this with the legal aspects. That's why it is important to learn this topic. So the Chamber of Commerce, අපි කියන වාණිජ්‍ය මණ්ඩලය කියලා මේක. The Chamber of Commerce in Sri Lanka is a valuable resource for small business owners. They offer guidance on legal matters, provide access to networking opportunities. They let the people to get to know about who are in the same industry and what they are doing, what the giants are doing in order to be successful. Also, likewise, a lot of things they do, and advocate for the interest of the business community. So then they will be explaining how to work with the business community as well. The Chamber of Commerce can connect entrepreneurs with legal professionals who specialize in small business law. So basically, as I told you, there are lawyers and they are the legal professionals. They've specialized in small businesses law. So the Chamber of Commerce give the opportunity to deal with these lawyers and let the people know what they have to be done. So that's for an example. You may remember now, before this new taxation comes, we've been asked to pay the tax. So what we do, even we went to these the people who are doing this taxation, and we get that professional skill from them to count down what is our tax amount. So as per that, we paid this tax for the government, right? Before this new taxation implemented. So likewise, there are special professionals for each thing. So you need to get these professional services. You can get, so it's easy then. And government institutions. So what are the government institutions that would be focusing on these legal and regulatory actions? So various government institutions in Sri Lanka provide legal advice and support for small businesses. So normally, what they do, a lot of institutions in Sri Lanka, they support for small businesses. These include the Ministry of Industry and Commerce, the Department of Commerce, and the Registrar of Companies. They can provide information on legal requirements, regulations, and procedures for small businesses. What are the legal requirements? What are the regulations? And what are the procedures when they come into the small scale businesses? Now, next one is laws pertaining to small business in Sri Lanka. So you could see I have given you here 6 laws. So they are it's better. We'll see how we are going to do with these laws. So anyway, you will be having questions in the examinations also to select. So but the thing is, when you're explaining things, you should have an understanding what are these things are doing. I do not want the Company Act number itself, if you as it is little bit difficult to remember. If you can remember it, it is really, really good. Definitely, you will be advantageous when it comes to examinations also. But at least you should be able to write what is the act, Companies Act, at least, right? If there are students who have done management, the commerce subject for their advanced level, definitely they may have studied all the acts when it comes to advanced level also under business studies. So, okay, right. So anyway, so one law is the Companies Act. So if you want to, the small businesses, if you want to register under a company, so the Company Act is the one which is enacting. So governs the incorporation, management, and operations of companies in Sri Lanka, right? So how the small, not very small scale businesses are not coming under this because they do not come under a company, right? So the Company Act explains very clearly how we are going to do the management, what could be the operations. So normally when it comes to profit sharing, when it comes to earning, doing social services, when it comes to earning. So all the management and operations of companies are explained in the Companies Act. Most of the times, the financial aspects, right? Rather social services and environmental aspect, they are looking at the profitability aspect. So provides regulations for small businesses, including requirements for registration. So it is mandatory and required every business which stands with a name, they need to register under this Company Act, right? They need to register. So it explains the requirement of registration, because then even the government can stand. So they, because this is a legally accepted organization, so anywhere anyone can count on accounting, how to keep accounting standards, shareholder rights, and director responsibilities. So as I told you, these are the things normally they would be the Company Act would be looking at when we discuss about the small businesses in Sri Lanka. Then value added tax. We normally know VAT. So the small businesses need to know what's happening in this VAT as well. So establishes the framework for the taxation of goods and services in Sri Lanka. We know VAT is the tax which is added for the goods and services in Sri Lanka. So even this is for small business or large scale businesses, you have to accept that this comes. So small businesses may be required to register for VAT and comply with its provisions, such as filing tax returns and maintaining proper records. So once the organizations, once the business properly maintain about the VAT, so they may get sometimes releases from several raw material. Thus, for an example, let's assume you are a small scale business which is producing very important thing for a country. Let's say a medicine. You are making an Ayurvedic medicine. So for some products, let's say the VAT is very high, value added tax is very high. So once you have been registered with the VAT, so you can come into Chamber of Commerce and discuss how to get a VAT reduction for these kind of raw materials, as this would be difficult for the production. So likewise, for that, the company needs to register for VAT and need to maintain proper records on the VAT also. And when it comes to Inland Revenue Act, so basically regulates tax and other related taxes in Sri Lanka. So Inland Revenue Act is always talk about the income tax and any other related taxes, right? All the taxes, so including income taxes as well. So that is why when you are earn for the profit, the tax would be charging. So, but with the current the current president has been released most of the income taxes from the businesses, claiming that the people are trying to leave the companies because of these Inland Revenue Act and income tax. So it's very now it's released for many more businessmen, but the tax is not released for the government servants who are doing jobs and for the private organizational people who are doing jobs. But for this businessmen, it's been reduced to promote this businesses, not only small scale businesses, as I believe a lot of businesses it's been released. So anyway, released in the sense reduced, minimized. For some organizations it's released. So likewise, it depends. So you need to know that small businesses must comply with income tax regulations, including filing annual tax returns and maintaining accurate financial resources. So it's important to note that once you register with these acts, specifically this Inland Revenue Act, it is a thing which decides whether small businesses are promoted or not promoted. So as the president's decisions, most of the companies will not start businesses if the government charges a huge tax from businesses. So that is why they are released from many inland revenue acts, and it's like giving a kind of a release for them. So small businesses also comply with this income tax regulations as normal companies, normal businesses, including filing annual tax returns and maintaining accurate financial records. Otherwise, they would be doing some kind of a wrong thing for the country law. So it is important to maintain proper regulations. So Registration of Business Names Act. So this is regulates the registration of business names in Sri Lanka. If a small business owner has a name for their business, he needs to register the business name with the registrar of the companies. And the other thing that we would be looking at is shop and office employees. So if you are doing a office like, so definitely you have to adhere for the Shop and Office Employees Act. So what it says, governs the employment conditions and welfare of employees working in shops and offices. So we would be looking at how how we are going to give the welfare and other employment conditions while they are working in shops and offices. It can be regarding working hours, leave entitlements, and other employment related matters. Any employment related matters. So the shop and office is covered for the employees who are working in shops and offices, right? So you need to know about that one also, because an employee comes to you and asks, so what is this? Why I am not entitled for this? What this working hour is not suitable for me. So likewise, you cannot say, ahema tamai mage shop ekේ, you have to do that. You have to, then they can go for courts. So therefore, you have to adhere for the Shop and Office Act and intellectual property laws. So various intellectual property laws provide protection for trademarks, copyrights, patents, and other forms of intellectual property. So intellectual property laws, basically, if someone, normally these small scale businesses and entrepreneurs, they are into producing some kind of a new thing, innovation, novelty. So they should be able to get a trademark, copyright, and patent. So then others cannot copy the same thing. Otherwise, it's like, it will be like China. Once you do something, now normally what the China is doing, once someone has been invented something, China people, they never go for inventions. What they do, they copy, but the invention, that what is their talent is, they go for the same thing, but with a poor quality. So it is also a very good talent that they can do. So these, what do you call, copyrights and patents, so comes under intellectual property. So if you have been come across, let's say, if you are an Ayurvedic doctor, you have found a medicine for dengue. So it is your intellectual property, you can claim on. So it's important. And small businesses should be aware of these laws to protect their intellectual property rights. Okay, now we will be moving into ways of settling disputes in Sri Lanka, disputes in small businesses in Sri Lanka. So normally there can be dispute. So there are a lot of disputes can be happening. So what you can do is, you can come into different dispute settling methods, right? So one thing is mediation. What do you mean by mediation? Mediation is a voluntary and confidential process in which a neutral third party, known as a mediator, assists disputing parties in reaching a mutual acceptable resolution. Mediation is a flexible and informal process allowing the parties to actively participate and have control over the outcome. So basically, what the mediation is done in the mediation, in most of the times, this labor department also can be sending a person to mediate to settle problems. Let's assume when there is a dispute, what is going wrong is we need the peace and harmony in every organization to have a proper industrial relationship. What do you mean by industrial relationship? Employer-employee relationship and employer-government relationship and employee-government relationship. So to have a sound employee relationship or industrial relationship, the government is always looking at how to settle problems. So this mediator, so the labor department, they are assigning a person. If there is, let's say, there is a conflict between employees and employers. So they are sending a person to mediate the problem and neutralize it would be coming as a neutral third party. එනකොටම කම්පැනි අයිතිකාරගෙන් පගාව අරගෙන එන්න බෑ. It is a neutral third party known as a mediator. So they listen to both parties mutually. He is listening to both parties' requests and then come into a acceptable resolution. So what they can do. So that is why mediation is a flexible and informal process. So the third party will handle the outcome. He is not giving any suggestions or orders. He is just telling this is the way how employees are thinking. It is told to the employers. Employers, then for the employer side, he listens to the employer side and he communicates it to the employee side. So he can give suggestions, of course, but not any order. So that is why it is very flexible. So in most of the times, mediator let the issue to understood. ගෙදර වුණත් එහෙමනේ. ගෙදර අක්කයි නංගි රණ්ඩු වෙනවා නම් parents they come as mediators, right? They come as mediators and let them to understand by each party what is the problem, right? It is not any kind of a rule or regulation. But if you are punished from a school principal, it is, of course, it's like a kind of a third party that has been involved. It's a serious thing, right? So, but this one you can listen or not listen, but he will be explaining what the problem is. It is a cost-effective and time-efficient method of dispute resolution, often resulting in a more amicable and sustainable resolution compared to litigation. So this is very effective, right? Very effective method to resolve the disputes because it's very amicable. Amicable means what? Very friendly. Very friendly. He is talking about what is the problem and what we need to do now. So mediation can be initiated by the parties involved in the dispute or by court referral. So as this says, it says, so one from the court referral. So maybe court referral is the normally a person from the labor department. If not, they can appoint a third party. Both parties get together and they discuss and they appoint a third party. It's like this mediation, right? And arbitration. So arbitration is a process in which the disputing parties agree to submit their dispute to an impartial third party or a panel of arbitrators known as the arbitral tribunal. So the arbitrators, of course, they are coming from the labor department. So the arbitration කියන්නේ රණ්ඩුව වගේම කියන එක තමයි ආරවුල කියන එක. So when you are coming into an arbitration, what the grievant party කියන්නේ දුකටපත් වෙච්ච කට්ටිය. ගොඩක් වෙලාට employees ලානේ දුකටපත් වෙන්නේ. So these grievant grievant party, they can submit about the dispute to an impartial party, to this arbitrator, saying we have a problem, right? So, or it can be one arbitrator or a panel of arbitrators, right? So normally panel of arbitrators, when it comes to Sri Lanka, more successful. නැත්තම් ඔය කෙනෙක් දෙන්නෙක් කෙනෙකුට පගා ගන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ තරම් අපේ ලංකාව හොඳ හින්දා. So it's better to go for panel of arbitrators, we call as arbitral tribunal. So the arbitrators hear the arguments, review evidence, and make a binding decisions known as arbitral award. Now you look at what is the difference between mediation and arbitration. They hear the argument and they review the evidence. What happened here, what happens from the employer side, employee side, and they give a binding decision. The decision which is given by the arbitrators, you have to adhere for that. But in mediation, he is giving only suggestions, you can accept or not. But here the arbitrators are giving a arbitral decision, which is known as what? Arbitral award. So arbitration provides a more formalized and structured approach to dispute resolution compared to mediation. So as we told, this is a kind of a more formalized and structured approach than the mediation. It offers flexibility in terms of selecting arbitrators and choosing the applicable rules and procedures. So normally, it offers flexibility in terms of selecting arbitrators and choosing applicable rules and procedures. So the flexibility of selecting the arbitrators and choosing the rules and procedures, that there is a flexibility for that. The decision reached through arbitration is usually final and binding on the parties. So this would be the final and binding on other parties, the decisions that the arbitrators are taken. What do you mean by small claims courts? So small claims courts, we'll see what they are doing. They normally handle about disputes involving relatively small amount of money, right? Small businesses owners can file a claim in these courts without the need for formal legal representation, making it a cost-effective option. So you do not want to hire any lawyer or anyone. You can simply file a case claiming that I have not got money from these people. So maybe I have not got money from partners, or maybe unfair, let's say, profit distribution. So likewise, anything which relates to money matters, but small amounts of money, it can be resolved through small claim courts. The procedure in small claim courts is simplified and less formal compared to regular court procedure. So normally we say these small claim courts is simplified and less formal. Normally, when it comes to a court, it is very formal and a lot of regulations are there when you are adhering to this. But here, small claim courts, it is not very much formal compared to the legal court proceedings. And it aims of small claims is to provide accessible and speedy justice for small disputes. Normally, if we go for a industrial courts, in order to settle down the problems, it takes a longer period of time, right? So therefore, in order to get a speedy justice and for small dispute, these small claim courts have been introduced by the government. So it will stop the people going into courts every time, even for small things. Alternative dispute resolution centers. So what they do? Alternative dispute resolution centers in Sri Lanka offer various methods of dispute resolutions. So, including mediation, arbitration, and negotiation. So, these alternative dispute resolution centers, they would be counting on any problem related to small businesses on. If you want to go for mediation, if you want to go arbitration, and even a negotiation. දෙපැත්ත කතා කරලා mutually you can discuss and you can come into a conclusion. These centers provide trained mediators and arbitrators to facilitate the resolution of disputes. So normally, we were discussing when it comes to mediation and arbitration, they were coming from court reference. So this is what it says, right? So alternative dispute resolution centers can be creating and letting the people to have the service of these trained mediators and arbitrators. Alternative dispute resolution centers can be utilized by small business owners as an alternative to traditional court litigation, offering more flexibility and efficiency. Normally, why we need this one again? We need to give more flexibility and efficiency in decision making. So it's important that you are looking at this ADR centers. And what do you mean by negotiation? Negotiation is a process of discussion and communication between the parties involved in disputes with the goal of reaching a mutually satisfactory resolution. So normally what would be happening? So in a negotiation, you would be discussing and communicating how the dispute would be, right? And what is the dispute, how we are going to go for a common goal, how both of us can win. Let's say the organization says you need to produce 1,000 pieces per week, right? So you may say, no, as employees, we are not in a position to go for 1,000 pieces, but for the team, we can go for 700 pieces. So then you are coming into negotiation, or you can probably say 700, okay, but if not, okay, 850. So likewise, you come into negotiation where both parties can be mutually satisfactory. It involves identifying common interests, exploring possible solutions, and reaching compromise. So what would be happening? So all the parties would be looking at whether they have a common interest and what are the possible solutions they would be exploring. Okay, if this is done, what should be the other thing? So likewise, and reaching a compromise. So it's also important. And negotiation can be conducted directly between the parties or with assistance of legal counsels or mediators. So negotiations can be done through directly by employers and employees, or we can take the support from these ADR centers and ask a person to come into this discussion and to make this mediation more easier, so then we can come into negotiation. So that is why it's called legal counsels or mediators also can go through. So the things what we learn is that laws and regulations that govern the formation and ownership of small businesses. So basically, we were learning about just remembering these things would be sufficient, right? What are the rules and regulations? We discussed Company Act. So what the Company Act is doing, it would be looking at what are the rights and responsibilities of shareholders, directors, and other officers of the company. So the things that I'm telling you is more than sufficient for you to write small introductions for these things. Even if I ask laws and regulations for govern the formation ownerships of small businesses, I will be asking to briefly explain or just to mention. So just within a one sentence, you can explain what is done. So underline this word, the last one, what is doing. It talks about the rights and responsibilities of shareholders, right? And the directors and other officers. And the registration of business names we discussed. So small businesses need to register their business names under registrar of companies because it gives an important value for the business, and so therefore it is important. So you can get the number and you can do cancellation or renewal of these business names. And so because once you register under a business name, no other business can register under the same business name. That is given in order to give a protection for your own business. Let's assume Pollatu Batkade, Matara Batkade. Then if they have registered under business names, same Matara Batkade cannot be there in all the other areas, but who is conducted by other people. If it is Matara Batkade should be what you call done by only the owners of Matra Batkade people. So they can use this business name in everywhere in Sri Lanka. Matra Mega Balangudat, Kolambat, you can do that. But not the other people. Why? So this then the other people will be disguised and they will think so this is the same thing. So that is why you need to register under business names. Partnership Act. So normally the most of the organizations as they have no, as they cannot find sufficient money, they get the partnerships. So myself and my family friends, so we get together as partners and we work together, right? So, and that may be because of that we do have different skills and we can then I can put 5 lakhs, he can put 5 lakhs. So we get together, we can take 10 lakhs and start the business. So likewise, most of the times in small scale businesses, we see this partnership. So we go for partnership. But remember, whenever you go for this partnership, you have to make it legal. Partner, he will take all the money and go. You will have nothing in your hand and you cannot claim it either. But once you have registered under Partnership Act, it talks about how to share profits. Who should share profits, losses, responsibilities of each parties. So it would be outlining the rights and duties of the partners, partnership agreements, and dissolution procedures. If you want to closure up, how this can be dissolved. So, and intellectual property laws. Now we were discussing about intellectual property laws. So there, if you have innovated the new thing, you have to get the patent. That's for an example. Let's assume you are inventing a new beer, a new tea, right? So you can get the patent for this product. You can go to present this one, right? So then you would be able to get the patents and copyrights for these products. So it is also again to protect you, protect your intellectual knowledge. So it is also very much important to go with the brand identity and the creative works. Otherwise, if someone else copying the same thing, the creator will be discouraged and dissatisfied with the problem. And taxation law, as I told you, VAT, so value added tax, income tax, and all the other various different taxes. So the business people, they want to know about, because it says how we are obliged for these tax. That's for an exam in income tax. When we get an income tax application, we have to fill properly and we have to pay it. Otherwise, it will be problematic. So likewise, what are the tax purposes? Filing tax returns. And maintaining accurate financial records are really important when you are talking about this taxation. Employment laws. So as I discussed about, a lot of employment laws are there. So you have to look into this employment laws. So shop and office law is also not one thing. So it would be explaining what are the working hours that a person can have. Once you are into maternity, how the maternity leaves can be there. If you are sick, what are the leaves you are entitled, and leave entitlement, work hour limits, and workplace safety standards. That's for an example. If you are a pregnant one, definitely you should have the right to sit and rest, and kind of a medical officer. So normally the medical officer, in the sense at least a nurse should be there. If there are a lot of lady employees are working in the organization. So likewise, there are a lot of employment laws. You cannot ask your employees to work as how you want. Even the minimum wage regulations. There is a minimum wage regulation. If it is 15,000, you cannot give 10,000 and just to satisfy the people. Then people can claim on these things. Not only the permanent employees, but the probationary employees, contract-based employees, even seasonal-based employees are, they do have different laws and regulations. So if ever you are working as a seasonal employee or a contract basis employee, look into the laws that you are entitled, because probably you may be able to get a lot of compensations from these companies. So that is the lesson that I want to cover under this laws. So now we are going to go to this session. We will move into learning. Developing no, nature of ownership. Did we do this? Nature of ownership? No, we'll do this one right now. Nature of business ownership, right? So when it comes to nature of business ownerships, so there's no best form of ownership. The best form of ownership depends on the entrepreneur's situation. Evaluation of the characteristics, weighing pros and cons, then deciding which form suits you as an owner. So simply there's nothing to study. It simply says you should know which kind of owner you should be, right? There are pros and cons, advantages and disadvantages are there when you become an owner, right? So what are the things that you would be getting when you become an owner? Control of business. If you are the owner, you have the control of business. No one is going to control you. And the managerial ability. You have the managerial ability. You know what to do and how to do, when to do, who it should be done. You decide it. And cost of formation. So how my cost am I going to divide among these activities? You decide it. How much for production, how much for marketing, how much for sales, how much for welfare, you decide it. And liability exposure, as well as you are exposing to liabilities as you and as an owner. Think about, you are manufacturing food. There is a worm in the food, right? The customer is complaining. So the liability goes for you because you are the owner. You may have seen most of the organization, how they have collapsed because of this liability exposure. Once they are not in a position to cover up and defend themselves properly. And tax consideration. So as we were discussing about, tax consideration is you are liable and you are obliged to consider about the tax consideration factors, just now what we have discussed under the laws. And the forms of ownerships. What are the forms of ownership that a small scale business can have? Sole proprietorship. So sole proprietorship in the sense, only one owner is there. So this owner can be the owner of the small scale business. And the partnership, as I told, there are myself and my friend and your sisters, they get together and make a partnership. That's for an example. If there is a sister called Sweetie and if there is the sister called Whitey, so you can make Sweetie and Whitey company. So likewise, you can go for partnerships. And so the both people have to put money, invest money on, and skills and commitment and dedication also. The partnership types are also in different modes. I'm not going to get all the different modes. So basically the partnerships are like that. And companies. When it comes to companies, we know there are public companies and private companies. So public companies are basically, we talk about the companies which runs through the government, and private companies are done through most of the private organizational people. And corporations are there which are done by the government. So it is another way. So Characteristics of sole proprietorship. When you are the sole owner of this, when you are the sole owner of a business, one individual is there, as I told you. Simple to start and end. If you want, you do it. If you do not want, you close it up. Owner is liable for all the debts of the business. So because owner is taking the debts, therefore he is liable for all the debts. If you are going through with lot of debts, it will be really problematic. You may have seen even some people, they suicide themselves once they cannot bear the pressure of debts. So this is a kind of a risky thing if you are really running up with a lot of debts. And capital provided by sole owner. So the capital is also provided by the owner himself. He puts all the money for the organization. It is up to his capacity and capability whether to win or not. And business managed by owner. The business is managed by the owner. And sole proprietorship, what are the advantages and disadvantages? So, and as advantages, no restrictions, limits to capital, and quick decisions can be made, right? And few legal requirements, and all profits belong to owner. So you can understand there's nothing to go one by one. When it comes to disadvantages, no legal personality. So as you are sole proprietorship, now the small boutiques nearby at your houses and like all this, they are sole proprietorships almost. So no legal personality as a company, right? So now company is it is a legal personality, right? And feeling of isolation, because you as a sole owner, you have to decide what are the things that you are going to do with your business, everything. And unlimited liabilities. You are bound to unlimited liabilities. Now, you know, when it comes to private limited, you have seen the word private limited company. When the word limited is there, it means your boundaries, your bindings, they limit to the shareholder amount, right? If the shareholder has given you 1 lakh, invested 1 lakh, so it is bounded only for 1 lakh. But when it is unlimited liabilities, you have to pay all the debts also. So limited organizations, they have a lot of chances. So they once if the organization is bankrupted, so the liability is limited. So as per the limited liability, they can pay the debts. But once you go with unlimited liabilities, it's really dangerous. So that's why you need to pay all the debts, and you need to consider about these liabilities. And lack of continuity. Normally, you know, when you run as a sole proprietorship, it's very difficult to find money and to obtain skilled employees, and because it is a small scale business. So and that's why we call it as mushrooming businesses. They quickly start up and quickly finishes up also, unless you are not in a proper management. And characteristics of partnership. So when it comes to characteristics of partnership, normally you would be seeing 2 or more people as owners, and it is a legal requirement that you need to be registered under partnership act, and each partner must make a contribution to partnership, right? Every partner must do a contribution from money, from commitment, from skills, and life of the now the partnership agreement explains that what we discussed under the laws. Life of the partnership is not separate from the lives of the partners. So normally, normally we say once we do a business, it becomes the life. So that's why it says it. You have to work for the organization. So most of the partnerships also like unlimited organizations. Partners are jointly and severally liable for debts on the business, right? So that is why. So if there is a debt, if you are going to closure of the business, you need to jointly bear the debts, right? So it is important to know. Types of partnerships. What are the types of partnerships? General partnership is the partnership in which all partners have unlimited personal liabilities and take full responsibility for the management of the business, right? So that's what I told you. Now they are binding to unlimited personal liabilities, and they have to take all the responsibilities once there are debts and all. And limited partnership is it is limit, the liability is limited to the only to their investment. Other than to that, they are not going to pay off. Thus, for an example, if I have given 1 lakh for my partnership, I am limited only for that 1 lakh. I can pay debts only up to that 1 lakh rupee, the invested amount, and I'm not going to pay other than to that amount. So likewise. So investment is there, so I am liable with that. I do not want to bring money from home to pay the debts. Joint ventures means what? A partnership in which two companies join to complete a specific project. The partnership ends after a specified period of time. So normally, within a specific period of time, partnership ends. They get together to complete a kind of a project. Strategic alliance. Strategic alliance are partnerships in which two business work together for mutual benefits. So they are like, now let's say, the health care. Let's say there is a healthcare clinic. So the healthcare clinic and let's say and a bank can get together and work for something, right? And an office can work together and work for something. So likewise, strategic alliances can be there. And partnership advantages and disadvantages. So once you are into partnership, it of course, rather other than working as an individual organization, it gives combination of new skills and ideas to a business. Shared responsibilities for decision making. Share profits and are therefore motivated to work hard. So the share profits are shared. So that is why most of the people, they go for partnerships. And very few legal requirements, not like in companies. What are the disadvantages? Not a separate legal entity. This partnerships also doesn't stand as a legal entity, right? So that is why we call it as, they have to work as its life. It is the life of the people. It is not separated. Person and the business are not separated. We consider it as a one thing. Now, thus for an example, a company, limited company, people can say, it is not me. I have not done that. It is the company did it. The company has given you these things, not me. But for partnerships and sole proprietorships, you cannot say that. You are liable for all the things. So that is why it says it is not a separate legal entity. Liable for the actions of the other partner, right? You would be liable for the actions of the other partners, and discussions between partners can slow down decision making, right? Once you discuss, normally, it's very difficult to come into a decision making with partners, because normally the partners do not agree to a same thing. So problems can arise if one or more partners are lazy, inefficient, and even dishonest. So this is a real huge problem when it comes to partnerships. Once, as I told you, that's why all the partners should work together to achieve the partnership. If they are lazy, if they do not work, it will be a real problematic. Let me show you a video on partnership companies problems. Okay. Partnership business problems. I will be showing you what are the partnership mistakes. Normally, this would be giving you a little video clip. I will be showing for a little thing so you can have an understanding with this video clip. We'll watch it.
So here's the thing, right? I have a social media marketing agency course that I charge $0 for. It's 100% free, and I help people to go.
Partnerships in business can be the best thing that ever happened to a company. Without knowing how to organize the partnership and how to manage it, it will fail, no matter how good it was at the start. Several of the fastest growing, most fun companies that I've ever started have been with partners. Now, it wasn't always 50-50 partnerships, but no matter how much stock they owned, I always treated them like an equal partner, because when you have two or more minds working together towards the same goal, you can achieve amazingly fast results. So if you're in a partnership, it's your job to set up some basic rules that keep that partnership strong. Now, with that said, there have been two companies that I used to own with partners that ended up being very costly lessons for me. Lessons that I've never repeated again, but lessons that I don't want you to go through either. Because it's faster and easier to just learn lessons from somebody who's been there, done that, than to pay the price yourself. So the first one was a partnership with a friend who I had known for years and who I respected. And because of that, we skipped doing things like a personality profile and credit checks. Now, that was back when I was still a really novice business person, but had we done those, I would have found out that his top two values were his family and his status in life. Now, I'm a big believer that your family should be one of your top, if not the top value in your life, but because he had those two values on the top of his list, the very first year of us being in business, after we agreed to reinvest most of our profits back into the company to help it grow, he went out and he bought a brand new luxury sports car and a new house for his mother. And by the way, his previous car wasn't really in bad shape, and his mother's place was pretty damn nice. But he needed to see growth in his status. And that caused him so much stress that he went out there and started a new bank account, and he funneled a portion of our company revenue into that new account. And that didn't last long, but it happened. And I had to walk away from that business fast. I mean, super fast. I literally gave him everything, and I told him that if his family really needed the money so badly, they could have it. Because the time and the focus it would have cost me to deal with that in any other way would have been damaging to me and me getting my momentum back into another business. And I was right, because I grew my next company within a few months, and now flash forward almost a decade, because this happened like almost 10 years ago. Flash forward almost a decade, and today his business is still struggling. And he still gets a new car almost every single year. Now, the lessons in that one was, number one, always do personality profiles on a potential partner so that you both know each other's strengths and weaknesses. And also, run a credit check so that you can see the financial track record on each other. That'll give you massive insight into that side of the partner, right? That side, the financial side of a partner, which sometimes it's their dark side, put it that way. And if that's a friend, I guess the third thing on there would be, if that's a friend that you're going into business with, it's even more important not to skip those steps. Now, the other partnership that I went into that was, not that great for me was with a team of people that had a great reputation in their industry. And I knew their company for a long time, and I watched them grow, and I knew that if I just plugged my core competencies and my relationships into their model, that'd be a game changer for that company. The challenge was that even though I knew that company, I didn't know each individual partner well enough. And I didn't do background checks or psychological evaluations. Now, had I done that, it probably would have saved me several $1 million, because basic psychological profiles uncover stress points that people have that might not be a challenge in your life, but when that other person is faced with pressure in that area of their business or that area of their life, it's literally crippling to them and crippling to you as a partnership. And a basic background check uncovers actions that someone may have taken in the past that throw up a red flag for you. And although there's no one test or checklist that you could do on a partner or an employee or whoever, you should have a basic list of tests that you both you and your partner are totally open to completing, so that you both know how to communicate with each other and what you might expect from the other.
So now you could see there are several issues, and what are the things that you want to focus on when you are into partnerships. So I just wanted to show you that one as well, because most of the people now, they are looking at this doing partnership businesses. So you need to focus on what you are really going through with. And now once I introduce the characteristics of companies, company is a legal person. That's what it is normally limited company. So this stands as a legally person which has capacity and powers to act on its own. So the companies and the shareholders are two different people, right? You cannot count it as one person. That is why we call it as a legal person. They are incorporated in terms of the MOI, Memorandum of Incorporation. You don't want to remember all these things, right? I'm just introducing you. So then you have an understanding. A company is incorporated by completing and filling Memorandum of Incorporation. So it's just, and these things actually you just cut off because I believe it's too much for you. So it says, it explains the director, shareholders or directors is not liable for the obligations of the company. So that thing you have to remember because it stands as a separate legal person. So underline this word, shareholders or directors are not liable for obligations of the company, right? And the types of companies, as I said, profit companies, private, public, non-profit companies. And so basically, when it comes to characteristics of the companies, we have to here focus on, moreover on, I will be going through with this one, private company advantages and disadvantages. And you do not want to focus on public company. Let me therefore explain private companies, because if you are going to set up a business, we would be going as a private company. So the private company advantages are limited liabilities, as I told you, limited to the shareholders' investment. Directors not compelled to attend. Directors are not compelled to attend for all the AGMs, right? And audited financial statements are optional, right? And information only available to shareholders. Shareholders of a right of preemption. What are the disadvantages? The company is subjected to double taxation, transferability of its shares, it's restricted, compelled to prepare annual and financial statements, and many legal requirements. So when it comes to these things, I'm not going to do to corporate organizations and all, because there are simply, you just remember what are the things that I was focusing on, that you want to focus on. And other than to that, what are the alternative approaches to start a business? It can be buy an existing business and enter to a family business, or own a franchise business. That's for an example. The KFC is there in a foreign country, you get the franchise for this country. So you own a franchise business. Even Matra Bhat Kade can be, you get a franchise for the Matra Bhat Kade to Nuwareli. So likewise. So what are the advantages of, now this is important. So you do not want to bother about actually companies when it comes to examination, right? Because it's not very much important. When it comes to advantages of buying an existing business, of course, once you buy an existing companies, you buy, there are already set customers, suppliers, and procedures are there. So it's easy for you to deal with. So you don't want to find new customers, new suppliers, and what are the procedures and all. And seller of the business may be willing to train the new owner. So the seller of the business also say, okay, I will sell this business and I will train you what to do and how to do and all. There are existing financial records, financial arrangements may be easier because it's already set. But what are the disadvantages of buying an existing business? Business may be for sale because it is not making a profit. If it has been taken a bad will, business, so it will be a bad name for you as well. So you have to be very careful when you purchase a business. Problems may be inherited with the purchase of an existing business. So why the people are selling these things? Because there can be problems. In the vehicles also same. When you sell, why you sell a vehicle? Because there is a problem in the vehicle, unless you are not going abroad. So that is why most of the people, they say, we are going abroad, so that's why we need to sell this vehicle. But it may not be the reality. Many entrepreneurs may not have the capital needed to purchase an existing business. So therefore, also you need to go for these existing businesses. So you just in this slide, you have to focus on the disadvantages and advantages of existing businesses, and do not worry about these company things. So, but look into sole proprietorship and the partnership. So that would be important for your examinations too. Okay, so then thank you very much. We'll move